remember when we were in forensics and we used to get a lot of comments about my eyebrows?
Yes. On all of our scoring sheets, it would be eyebrows in big capital letters. And I'm like, Drew, this note's for you.
That goes to show as to like why now I get Botox. They're like, okay, so what's the level, like 1 to 10? How frozen do you want to be? And I was like, level 10, Elsa me, like frozen me up. I don't care. I don't want any facial expressions. So like that is like my go-to now, right? Okay. Side note, I now know growing up in our adult life that my face reads all, like, right? So I don't
Yeah,
have,
yeah.
I,
You
I,
don't
I
have a
can't hold it
filter.
back anymore.
Yeah.
So now, fast forward to this audition this past weekend, and
Oh
I went
no.
out. I'm in London. I went out to Germany, and it was for Tarzan. And
So
I
cool.
have seen Tarzan on Broadway, and I guess I was just like maybe more enticed by like Tarzan himself with his body and everything that I wasn't paying attention to the dancing of the ensemble. But this audition was very much like, I want to say, contemporary modern dance company at its finest, and these dancers in the room were phenomenal. But as soon as like that first 8 count started, I was like, oh,
Oh,
this is not me.
oh no.
I was like, this is not me. And I was like, give me some like precision, like rocket line
Yeah,
jazz, and
yeah.
I am like there.
Right.
But give me like into the ground, like grounded, rooted, all that stuff. I just can't. I can't like attach myself to that type of choreography.
Yeah.
So I knew right off the bat that I was like, I'm gonna get cut. There's just no way. Like these phenomenal, like there's phenomenal dancers left, right, and center. I was like, I'm gonna get cut. And on the sideline, like I'm the only American in the room. I must have made this facial expression when the choreographer was like, okay, everyone come back out, we're gonna learn something new across the floor. I must have rolled my eyes or like raised my eyebrows enough. I've never been in an audition where I just wanted to go
Yeah.
out the door. Like I wanted to, like, I'm not
I
kidding
want to
you, I've
crawl
never
in a
in my
hole
life,
and hide.
yes, and I never in my life wanted
Oh.
to like get up and like
Walk
walk
out.
out because I just didn't feel I was comfortable. I was like, no, Drew, like you are a professional. You will not walk out.
But your eyebrows aren't.
I'm like going to get my water bottle. This girl taps me on the shoulder and she's like, I'm so sorry, but I did just see you roll your eyes. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. I was like, oh, okay. I'm so sorry. Like, did it offend you at all? And she's like, no, I actually thought that thought the same thought in my head, but I looked over and saw you giving the facial expression with your eyebrows. That made it feel very validated for me to have this thought. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. And I told her, I was like, I literally was just grabbing my phone to text my mom that I think I might be at the wrong audition right now because I I don't think this is
You're
where
like
it's at. She's
checking
like,
your email
yeah,
that you're in
right.
the right
It's
studio
like,
at the right time.
but moral of the story: watch your facial expressions anywhere in life because you never know when someone is watching you. 3, 2.
Hi, Dee.
Hi, Dee.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. So you're back in London.
I'm back in London from
That was a
Germany. Oh
quick
God, that was
trip.
crazy. Quick trip,
Wow.
quick trip.
What a trip. Oh my gosh, that's wild.
I've made my Botox appointment for next week. Needless to say.
Well, good. That's good. Yeah, I don't have any updates really. I want to like keep my mouth shut on this episode.
Oh, stop.
Cool it on the opinions, maybe. I don't know.
Haters are haters. That's all we're going to say. Before we start every episode, we like to share a vintage cocktail from my grandpa's little black book. All his own recipes from his days of owning a bar in Detroit in the 1940s.
The same book that his family thought was lost forever, but we accidentally exposed the family secret by revealing its location through this podcast.
Whoopsies. Sorry, Aunt Diane. Today's cocktail recipe is the Rob Roy. It's 1¼ ounce of scotch, an 1/8 ounce of Italian vermouth, and then 1½ dabs of Italian bitters. Stir and strain into a glass and decorate with one little cherry. What do you think? It's not my favorite.
No, I didn't like it and I gave it to Blake. But I do need a few other drinks after the internet had its way with me this week. Forensic Files subreddit hates me. I caution anyone who has anything but blind love for this show to post in there. Holy moly.
I haven't looked at it.
They took it down. They took my post down because people were getting so mad. I don't know. So I said Forensic Files gets so much wrong and can be cringy to watch at times, especially with like our 2025
Right.
perspective. Ooh, that did not fare well. It did not. They also trashed us for using their name, but we have a history with being the forensics duo since 2004. We didn't pick this podcast direction without intention.
Let's get into it and set the record straight.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome to the Forensic Files Duo podcast, where we recap, review, and provide updates on the cases featured on the true crime TV show Forensic Files. I'm Drew, and I knew nothing about true crime until we started this podcast.
I'm Danielle, and true crime raised me. While other kids were learning life lessons from Smokey the Bear, I was practicing how to switch directions on a sidewalk if a car started following me.
If you haven't heard our story yet, we'll break it down quickly. Danielle and I met in drama class in the 9th grade.
Where we grew up in Michigan, there's a school organization called Forensics. When you join the forensics team, you pick a category you want to compete in. The most well-known category is debate, but we competed in the duo category.
2 people perform a scene from a play that has been cut down to fit the time requirements. You can't look at each other, touch each other, or use props outside of chairs or stools. Then you take it to competitions and compete against other schools in your category and hope to win states. We wouldn't know what happens next, though, because we lost states by 0.01 point. Oh my god, reading that is like...
It still hurts. Now, if you are trying to figure out where forensic science comes into play, it doesn't. Not one bit. Our forensics team couldn't be more opposite of what forensic science is. The rules actively prevent any swapping of DNA of any kind. I looked up why the school organization is called Forensics, and the Stanford National Forensic Institute states that the word forensics comes from ancient Greece, where the term was applied to speeches made to convince a group of people who would make a judgment based on the arguments and evidence presented in the speech. So, here we are, reunited, using our speech to present evidence, and you all get to judge us.
And judge us they do.
Now, for our regular disclaimer, we understand that we will be discussing a lot of sensitive topics, so although we may laugh at times, please remember that we are laughing at ourselves and ourselves only. We are not making light of the victims and their families and what they've gone through and may continue to be going through.
And in an effort to use the public's overall interest in the show Forensic Files and leverage the power of digital media, once the episode coverage is over, we will highlight a missing persons case. Today's case is on the Black and Missing Foundation's website.
Today's Forensic Files episode is listed on Wikipedia as Season 14, Episode 17, titled Seeing Red. It aired on April 22nd, 2011. However, this case will take us back to 2004, and we're in Lubbock, Texas. Have you ever heard of this place?
Actually, funny story is, yeah, I've been to Lubbock, Texas. Because when I was on tour for a show, we were touring through Lubbock and we stopped there.
Oh my gosh.
How crazy is that? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm the only person that's never heard of this place. Everyone else seems to know about Lubbock, Texas, even though it seems like it's a very small town.
Yeah, no, I've performed there.
Wow, that is not what I was expecting. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess you could put your own 2 cents in what Lubbock is like, because from what I got, it's on Reddit. It's full of contradictions. People on Reddit were pretty mean about it, and they basically tore it apart. Denim Demon 666. That's a bad name. They said that my grandfather spent some time in Lubbock right before World War II. He said the best part of Lubbock was getting the hell out, and that was to be shipped to the European theater. That's a rough review. But the school has Texas Tech there. Buddy Holly is from there. There's a bunch of other musicians that are mentioned that I guess the general public knows about, but I don't. Just like I didn't know about Lubbock. I don't know, but people were mentioning this Mac Davis song. I looked it up and the lyric goes, I thought happiness was Lubbock, Texas in my rear view mirror. Then there's a whole album by Terry Allen about Lubbock. I don't know. Do you know who these people are? I don't know. Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
But my favorite title on that album was Lubbock Women because these are the lyrics. They're pretty poetic. Okay. She's 40 and lonely and raw and raunchy and has a good heart.
Oh my god.
I need to
and
find
has a
this
good
song.
heart.
And I was like, that was the most Southern bless your heart I've ever heard in a song. Okay.
Right.
So Lubbock is referenced a lot in pop culture. So if you've never noticed it before, now you probably will, like I will. Apparently, though, I'm the only one who didn't know about it. But by far, the best comment I found on this town is from I Am Boring AMA said, my significant other is from Amarillo, and things to do were go to Walmart, drive around, hang out in Walmart parking lot, and the areas around Amarillo are so desolate, even between Amma and Lubbock, that I once pooped on the side of the road because there were no rest stops or weird tiny towns coming up, and now a piece of my poop DNA lives forever in West Texas.
That's good. Well, that certainly sets the scene, and oh my lord, the episode opens and we are in the color world again for the reenactments, thank God. It opens with Peter telling us a teenage girl has vanished from her bedroom. I see the old school AIM chat screen, a young girl just typing away on AIM, and I am instantly brought back to the summer of 2004, creating the most ambiguous away messages that will also get me the most attention.
What would be like a go-to Drew in the throes of puberty and
Oh my God.
hormones and
okay, I think
and
it
also wanting attention but being ambiguous about it.
but like also in the closet kind of, and like not really
Oh,
like
right.
remember when I was like dating girls too, like that was weird. I probably said something along the lines of like, out living my best life. If you can't handle me at my best, then don't even try to handle me at my worst.
Yes.
But then I hear what Peter is saying, and it reminds me of the naive time before any of us were aware of predators on the other side of those chats.
ASL, anyone? Age, sex, location? Do you remember that?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Up next, a teenage girl vanishes from her bedroom. For almost 2 years, her case went unsolved until another girl from the same town also went missing. Police suspected a serial killer was on the loose, one who had a penchant for redheads.
Okay, but the police didn't suspect that. That's actually not true. I have no idea why they framed this episode and these events like this at all. To clarify at the start, we will learn about the murder of 2 victims. One is 29-year-old Summer Baldwin, and the other is a child, 16-year-old Joanna Rogers, who went missing about a year and a half before Summer's body was discovered. Police never connected the cases until they discovered a possible link during their investigation of the suspect's belongings.
We're told it's a hot, typical day in Lubbock, Texas, and a worker at a landfill notices a suitcase that looks like it still has things in it.
Shout out to the people who do this work. You keep this world going around.
You know, this poor little guy probably thought he might find some cool stuff that maybe someone didn't mean to trash, but instead he found himself some lifelong trauma that kicked off a whole series of events that would ultimately get a very bad man off the street.
Inside the suitcase is a naked young woman with red hair, folded into the fetal position, who is badly bruised and injured.
Okay, so this was definitely not what I was expecting from the title. I was thinking, like, seeing red, like, blood, you know what I mean? But, like, not redheads. Jesus, oh, Lord.
Oh my God, how did I not make that connection? I really didn't. I didn't.
Yeah.
I kept wondering why they chose that.
Like seeing red is like being angry.
is how I thought it was.
Right.
The red hair. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh. I
Mm-hmm.
don't like that.
She had no identification besides a small tattoo that says Summer on her ankle. And that tattoo is kind of reminding me of my tattoo that's on my ribs that's supposed to say regret one way and nothing the other way. But like now, honestly, Danielle, like it's become like a game because if I'm like swimming or like I'm like out at the beach, I'm like, so what do you think this tattoo says?
Has anyone gotten it right?
Not one person. So like I didn't see the word summer right away.
I honestly didn't pay much attention to that part because they show us photos of her limbs and I'm just like not sure what we're looking at until you see that tattoo. And that kind of like positions me with her body because they say it's on her ankle.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm just like very concerned about what other parts made it into the shot. I'm not sure if you noticed it. No?
No.
Did you see it?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure the editing team was really paying attention either because I just hope it's like her ear or something.
No.
Yeah. I didn't want to keep going back.
Yeah.
But I kept like I was like my mind was playing tricks and I'm like, what is that? Is that her face? Is that? And I don't know.
She was in the fetal position though, so
that's what I mean. Like her feet should be by the bottom of her body, and I'm just
right.
This is the stuff that Forensic Files like doesn't get right. Sorry, subreddit, but like this is the stuff that I have a problem with, and I think it's cringy. So crucify me all you want.
She had no identification except for a small tattoo that said, Summer.
We immediately meet a newscaster who maybe covered the case, but truly, like, I hate it when they interview newscasters on Forensic Files because it doesn't feel authentic. Like, it just makes me feel like they're reading a script. But
Yeah, that's
anyways,
fair.
the medical examiner said the victim had been dead less than 24 hours. And if you listen to our last episode, you learned with me how they can actually tell an approximate time of death.
The evidence also showed that she'd been severely beaten, but was still breathing when placed in the suitcase. Because the official cause of death was asphyxiation, which is suffocation, and that is just such a horrible way to die. I pray she was just not aware of being trapped in there.
And if that wasn't tragic enough, we find out that she was 2.5 months pregnant. They entered her fingerprints into the database and they got a hit. It was 29-year-old Summer Lee Baldwin.
Summer was a mother of four, originally from New Mexico, but had moved to Lubbock to live with her aunt and make a life for herself there. We aren't told anything about her children, if they were living with her at the time or with a relative. I also couldn't find more information on this from any other sources, but we are told that the reason her prints came up is because she had a previous arrest for sex work. Now, we're not going to talk about this moving forward because no other sources actually even mention this. So I'm honestly not sure if it is super relevant to include or not, but they show some very, very sad mugshots of hers that I just wish they wouldn't keep showing us. And they just show them throughout the whole episode when there's other options.
Yeah.
But I do want to note that I think how the investigator here, Douglas Sutton, says this next part is done in a very compassionate way. And I just want to say I appreciate that.
She was a young lady that was struggling, like many of those young ladies do. They're just struggling to make it from day to day, caught up in a world that sometimes is very impossible to get out of.
So because her body was found in the landfill, it made collecting any relevant evidence extremely difficult. There's tons of contamination all around and not a single fingerprint is left on the suitcase. But it's the suitcase itself that might give away more than what's on the surface.
While examining the luggage, investigators found a barcode and a tag that gave them the info for the manufacturer. The manufacturer was able to tell them that this Protege brand is only sold in Walmart stores. And this gave them their first big lead.
An employee told them that they were able to track any purchases made on that UPC number with their system. And surprise, surprise, I know about these UPC numbers because I happened to work at Target during COVID. And UPC numbers is actually something you're trained on because they actually can track like a lot of stuff.
Wow.
They can track all the purchases. Yeah, anything. And it's like that like, you know, that one tag that you want to like rip off of something and you just can't. It's that tag. It's that like barcode.
Man, the pride you have on your face for knowing. You're like, I am bringing something to this.
In November, I went from a seasonal employee to being asked to be a manager in January. So, hello. I can do anything, you guys. I can do anything. Walmart at this time actually had a pretty sophisticated tracking system on their sold items, too.
Well, something that is left out here, but it's included in the See No Evil episode and the podcast Military Murder, is that one of the disposal company employees remembered where they had picked up the suitcase. But unfortunately, no cameras caught a car or a person dropping off the suitcase. Just there was one home surveillance video and it just didn't catch the dumpster. But it did help them close in on an area. And luckily, there were only 2 Walmarts in Lubbock. So when they went to one and spoke with the employees there, they were able to confirm that, in fact, 2 suitcases had been sold the day Summer was murdered.
Investigators learned an identical suitcase was sold on the day Summer was murdered at 3 o'clock in the morning.
So not only is it odd to be strolling into a Walmart at 3 a.m. to buy a suitcase, the buyer also purchased latex gloves. I mean, red flags are flying everywhere when I saw this part.
Investigators check the surveillance cameras and can see a male in a bright green polo, shorts, and flip-flops. And we see these flip-flops a lot in the reenactments, and I don't know why this is so jarring to me, but I think it's showing how, like, normal he looks that's so scary.
Yeah.
But before I noticed the flip-flops, I noticed his haircut, and I can recognize that marine cut even in a grainy 2004 surveillance video.
Absolutely. And I wanted to, like, name a person that was in our high school that like would wear this outfit, but we're not going to.
Oh my God, I know exactly. And he's a Marine now.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Okay, moving on. Now let's recap what we know so far. Investigators are looking for the man who murdered a 29-year-old Summer Lee Baldwin and placed her body in a suitcase.
Surveillance cameras in a nearby Walmart store showed a man buying an identical suitcase just hours before her body was discovered in a landfill.
Surveillance cameras also identified the vehicle the man was driving, a red pickup truck.
The man bought the suitcase with a credit card.
And bam! Thanks to the Walmart tracking system, they got a name. Rosendo Rodriguez.
So, I want to add a few things for context because this episode left me with a lot of unanswered questions. There was another person of interest early on, and that was her ex-boyfriend. Everyone referred to him as Q. I got a lot of this from, again, those same sources I just mentioned before. So, Q and Summer had broken up, and he seemed rather disconnected from Summer by this point. But this is who everyone assumed was the father of her unborn baby. In another show, Summer's mom stated that they were all happy about the pregnancy. We don't meet anyone personally known to Summer, though, in this Forensic Files episode. I just want their voice to be accounted for here as well. Her best friend is also discussed on See No Evil. She is the one who led investigators to Q, but she also provided them with a new lead that turned out to be really important in building evidence in this case. See, the last time she saw Summer was late at night at a local 7-Eleven. Summer jumped out of the red pickup truck, said she had met someone new that she was hanging out with. Her best friend described the someone new, and it matched the man we're seeing in these videos. The friends hugged, and then they went their separate ways. Police were able to go back and find the red truck on the 7-Eleven surveillance camera to lock in the timeline of events. Then, while reviewing Rosendo's debit card statement for the Walmart purchases, they found 7-Eleven purchases made at that same location that matched surveillance video of him there earlier that day.
Well, the Forensic Files episode skipped all of that info and jumps us right to the fact that the records showed the same card being used just minutes after the Walmart purchases to buy gasoline. When they looked up the location of the gas station, they noticed a Holiday Inn right across the street from the gas station.
And this is the kind of detective work I find so interesting. It's so straightforward, and it's like a puzzle that they're just putting together.
A female there that works at the front desk recognized Rosendo from a driver's license photo. She said he registered under Thomas Rodriguez. The hotel room key shows every time someone uses one of those card keys to enter into a hotel room, a record is actually kept of those times. The hotel key revealed Rodriguez entered his hotel room at 3:46 a.m., less than an hour after buying the suitcase.
Okay, now this gets a little confusing because we're days after Summer's body has been found, and it's safe to assume Rosendo has checked out. So what we learn about the evidence that they find in this hotel room is unsettling, to say the least. Because I was able to confirm that the room had been reported to have been cleaned, and new guests were already staying in it.
Ugh.
Yeah.
We were able to find what appeared to be blood on the carpet, on the box spring, and on the bed sheet.
The bed sheet?
Ugh.
I know this is beneficial for investigators, but can you imagine being those guests and finding out why you're having to have your room changed? Okay, so surprisingly, though, this is still a Holiday Inn, and they have a 4-star
No.
Google review. Yes, I looked it up.
No.
And other sources, like, totally give the room number. Not going to, but I know it.
Oh my gosh.
I'm never going, so.
Never going.
But it's out there. And I'm just like, I'm reading Google reviews being like, does anybody know?
Come on. I look at reviews of hotels before I book them, so.
So do I. I'm just shocked, like, no one has, like,
That's
been like,
crazy.
hey, this is where the Suitcase Murder happened.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
But I wonder
Why-
if Google would take
but-
that down. You know, they probably would.
Why do I find those things and I'm like, I want to go?
Right?
You
I
know?
stayed at the Cecil Hotel in LA and did a Ouija board.
No, you did not.
Yeah.
No, you did
Yes, I
not.
did. Yeah, I did.
Why have you never told me that?
So I don't know. It was the weekend I got engaged. I got engaged in LA. Yeah.
What a great time to do that on.
Right. So I met Blake in Los Angeles, and so when he proposed, he went back to like where we had our first date, and that's where he proposed. So it was in LA. And yeah, so it was like another night, and since I was going to be in town, my friends and I all stayed on the Queen Mary one time, and it was the most haunting experience I ever had in my life. Like, That confirmed ghosts. There's something out there and they're playing tricks on us in certain places. I'd never want to stay there ever again, even though my son is dying to see the Queen Mary. I'm like, we won't stay at night though. But anyway, so when I came into town, they all wanted to go to the Cecil Hotel. And it's like we booked a room. We did not sleep there. We did a Ouija board and it was pretty creepy. I think we live streamed it on Facebook.
Where was my invite? Oh my God, I
I
would
don't
have.
even know where you were. Probably on a ship somewhere across the world.
Yeah, probably. That is crazy.
Yeah.
Was it cool though?
It was very cool. It was very eerie. Like every time, because you remember like the Elisa Lamb case where the elevator.
Yeah, of course.
I was very, very like uncomfortable like riding the elevator, just knowing like, it was just.
Oh my God, I would have just been like, this is so like something I want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
I don't know why I never told you.
That's
I
crazy.
was a little ghost hunter back in the day.
Then we meet Talton English. I mean, these names, come on.
That's a good
like
name.
they Summer Baldwin, Talton English. But Talton, the homicide detective, tells us that in the hall outside the room was a trash can. And inside that trash can was a Holiday Inn bag. And inside that Holiday Inn bag was a Walmart bag. And inside that Walmart bag was a set of latex gloves. And this, honestly, I don't know if it made you feel this way, but the instant image that came across my head was like those like wooden nesting doll toys where they just get smaller and smaller and smaller. Do you know what I mean?
I have a Santa one from when I was a little
You
girl.
do not.
It's one of my favorite things. I've like taped it because like it's broken over the years. It's one of my favorite Christmas decorations. I love.
Do you
my
know
little
what I'm talking about? I was like,
1000%.
inside that bag was this. Inside that bag was this.
Yes,
Inside that bag. I was like,
okay,
how many
but
bags?
Right. I also felt like it was this very dark twist on those annoying Christmas white elephant games where you have to like keep passing it around to people and unwrap a gift for about 45 minutes, but only one of you get to walk away with anything, and it's just like a spatula. You're like, what the fuck was it? I would have rather just drank and talked. Like, what? Hate those games. Yes.
Yeah. So now the big question is, where was Rodriguez? They tell us that a check of his cell phone records gave police the answer. But how did they get those records? How did they get his number? Because now we see a Greyhound bus and are told that hours after he had disposed of the body, he's on a bus, and during his trip, he takes a picture of himself in the goddamn green and white shirt that he had worn, smiling at the camera as if nothing had happened, and sending it to, hold for dramatic effect, one of his girlfriends. One of them, we don't get any more context about this. He texts her saying, I'm on my way back to San Antonio. What?
I know. I'm like, I need a little bit more information here.
I like, there's nothing.
Nothing. So police track him to San Antonio, where they learn he lives with his parents, and the show says that they find him on his computer. But I found other sources that say he came outside, and that's when they kind of swarmed him and arrested him. I don't know which one is true. Mm-hmm.
Now we see interrogation videos, and this is the stuff I like about the newer episodes. We have more of this technology, and it's easier to follow. But when we see him, I'm just like, he's kind of a dweeb. I mean, in the surveillance videos, he looks like this strong military Marine, and now he just looks like a total DB. Did you feel that way? Like,
yeah.
I was like, this guy just looks like a very sad 2007 like, I mean, there's just so many images that were going through my head.
Glasses on, and maybe he was like trying to like, milk it up or something.
Overcompensate.
I don't know. But that whole like strong military man, which also though, I just thought of this. Ew, the way he held himself in those videos, the surveillance videos, he was like strong and powerful,
confident.
Oh, and I just realized like he just murdered her.
Yeah.
And that's the effect it had on him. That's gross. That's gross. Okay. Well, of course, when he's questioned about Summer Baldwin's murder, he denies any involvement, but the forensic evidence found on the latex gloves in the hotel trash left no doubt in investigators' minds.
Here's the evidence. Both sides of the latex gloves were processed for DNA evidence. Both sides.
On the outside was Summer Baldwin's DNA.
On the inside was Summer Baldwin's DNA again, this time mixed with Rodriguez's DNA.
And Rodriguez's DNA also matched DNA from Summer's rape kit.
To investigators, it was an open and shut case.
But to be thorough, investigators searched Rodriguez's computer.
He was involved with trying to meet girls online.
In addition to that, from the moment Rodriguez got to his parents' home, he ran a number of searches for the name Summer Baldwin, and we would really appreciate if they'd stop showing Summer's mugshot.
But there was another name he searched repeatedly, Joanna Rogers.
This is where the second case comes in. 16-year-old Joanna Rogers, a high school student, had been missing for the past 18 months.
Her parents had last seen her the night before she disappeared around 1 a.m., when she returned home from her job at a sandwich shop.
Her mother told her that she'd see her in the morning. Joe said she'd see us in the morning, and she loved us, and she went to bed.
The next morning, Joanna was gone.
Her parents knew immediately something was terribly wrong, and her parents are so strong to be here talking to us about the worst thing that has ever happened to them. Her dad, though, he gets it. He knew his girl, and he knew she was in trouble, and I'm just so devastated for them.
She didn't take her car. She didn't take her keys. She didn't take her money. She didn't take any clothes, except for what she was wearing. No cell phone, nothing. That raises a flag immediately.
One thing her mom mentioned on the Military Murder podcast for this case was how she still slept with a baby blanket. And before anyone jumps to judgment, I know a lot of adults that have held on to sentimental items like this into their adulthood. So hold it back. She took it with her because it's a piece of home. It's a piece of safety. And Joanna, she's still a child. Her mom said she would take it to sleepovers and would never stay somewhere overnight without it. So when she saw the blanket, that was her biggest red flag. My mama heart just broke for her. But a part of me is like also glad, that her mom has it to hold something so dear to Joanna. And I imagine she probably held that blanket many nights since losing her baby girl.
We see pictures of Joanna, and it just hit me that we're the same age as her. Like, these photos of her look just like photos from our teen years. There was no evidence of an intruder, and Joanna's parents, who slept just down the hall, had heard nothing.
In another source, her father did state that he heard a bedroom door rattle, like another door in the house had just shut. And it's amazing when he said that, I knew immediately what he was referring to. It's not something you really have a name for of that, but when another door shuts, your other doors kind of move. So
right.
I'm not sure why they didn't mention that here, but I just thought that was such a detail that he probably is if I had just gotten up and walked out of the house. He said he got up and checked the door and that he didn't see anything, but what if he had just walked out, right? I'm sure those kind of thoughts just haunt you.
So at the time of Joanna's disappearance, the community had come together to find her. Police and volunteers conducted an extensive search for her, and we see helicopters and search crews walking around Lubbock, but the search turned up nothing.
Now that investigators knew Rosendo Rodriguez was following Joanna's story on his computer, police start looking into his possible connection to her disappearance.
Joanna had now been missing for the last 18 months, and he was going from news story to news story to news story about Summer Baldwin. But they say, then later, Joanna Rogers. I'm not sure if that means the investigators later found evidence of him searching about Joanna because it happened 18 months earlier. So the summer searches were just more recent in his search history. That wasn't super clear to me,
Yeah, no, me neither. They say later they find it. So I'm
right.
I don't understand what that means. Did he stop searching for Joanna?
Right.
He felt it was over and then now is just doing it, or is he kind of going back and forth between the two? Because that just kind of puts you into the mind of where he's at. Is he paranoid or is he not? Is he feeling confident? I just wanted to know those things. Anyways.
Me too.
Yeah. And then we remember that this is 2011 and memories of our teen years just keep flooding back to me, specifically memories of wasting so much time on AIM. And when I heard that AIM ding, I had an emotional reaction.
Me too.
Did I ever tell you that I spent months talking to who I thought was Emma Watson on AIM?
What? You're lying.
No. Okay, listen. It was just a few months ago that I realized it was most likely a childhood friend of mine. I genuinely never added it up until I was listening to another podcast about a catfishing case. And they were talking about her behavior in high school or adolescence. And because now these cases are involving stuff like AIM and their history with AIM and stuff, I'm they kind of referenced that and it all just hit me. And it reminded me so much of this friend of mine who also talked to who I thought was Emma Watson. I thought every day I'd go home that I was talking to like the whole cast of Harry Potter because her and I were obsessed with Harry Potter.
You were catfished?
I was catfish. It was maybe 9 months of like, I was 12 and I genuinely just never added it up.
Wait, so what, do you know who this was?
I never got confirmation. It just kind of fizzled away. I don't remember if I kind of was like, this is not who this person says they are, or if I thought it was a weirdo. I don't remember that part. I just know it's like kind of.
You thought you were talking to Hermione Granger.
Yeah. I was like 12. I was little. I wanted to be an actor. I thought she was going to get me in the movie. I knew every line to the first movie. I was like, this is how I'm going to get a role. This is how I'm going to get in the movie.
I am... You thought that Emma Watson went on to AIM and contacted you from England. I did not think that this is where the story was going to go. Oh my God.
I was a big dreamer. And now I realize it was most likely this friend of mine.
Or like a weird, creepy old
Or
man.
a weird, creepy old man. So that's who I kind of thought, like, after it happened years later, I kind of just was like, that was probably some weirdo from who knows what.
But like, where did you find this name?
This friend. That's why I think it was her. Because she's like, oh my God, Danielle, like Emma Watson and I and the cast of Harry Potter. Because, listen, she brought me into being obsessed with Harry Potter. So she kind of was my, like, her and I, that's what we shared, is like loving Harry Potter. We'd go to Borders Books and Barnes and Noble when the books came out. We'd go see the movies. So like she was my person to do that with. And so she found them and then introduced us on AIM.
Find them. She didn't find them.
And that's why I think it was her.
But why does she need your validation in a way of like, oh my God.
Why does a catfish? I don't know. Kind of like, I think it all added up because I was listening to this podcast about this weirdo who just had like all these weird encounters, and they were reminding me of that person. And then when they talked about this incident on AIM, I was like, oh my gosh, this whole time I just kind of filed it away that it was an old creepy dude, and I was stupid of just to talk to this person. I mean, every day I'd get off the bus and I would go and chat with little Emma. And she'd be like, I just got back from hockey. What's wrong with me? What? But I do think
you thought that Emma Watson played hockey?
I have no idea.
Danielle.
I was 12. Why don't we go down? Why are you shaming me this whole time? Now I'm embarrassed.
No, I mean, I played hockey, but I just can't picture Hermione Granger playing hockey on the side. Like,
I mean, I could actually see that for Emma, but maybe I made that up when I was 12 in my head. So, and I just don't know how it ended. And now I realize it was all orchestrated by this weirdo friend. And let me tell you, it kind of aligns with how our friendship ended.
Oh my God.
It's fine. Like,
that is wild.
Yeah. I just
wild.
can't believe that, like, what? So if I was 12, that's like 22 years later. I'm 23 years later. I'm just now making this, like, connection.
That is crazy.
I honestly hope it was her just being another weird 12-year-old and not some creepy old guy, you know? So I'm like not really like interested in like discovering what it was. But yeah, that was fucking weird.
That is wild. That is crazy.
Me and Emma Watson, Hermione Granger go way
playing
back.
hockey.
You know what doesn't make sense either is like she said she was living in Canada.
I'm gonna pee my pants.
None of this makes sense.
Are you listening to yourself? Emma Watson's from England.
I know. I swear to God, she told me some story about getting away from the press or something.
Whoever this person is, to construct a story about Emma Watson running away from the press to Canada to play hockey. Whoever you are, I applaud you because that is a fantastic storyline, but terrible to do to a 12-year-old.
Oh, I remember fighting with like my mom and be like, I'm going in the movies. I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to be on Harry Potter.
Why have you never told me this? This is a gold story. Could you imagine if I was like, yeah, I talked to Daniel Radcliffe and he said that.
Oh, he was part of it. I talked to Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh, Danielle, this is a story that I wish you would have told me. You would have, first of all, bonded us more in high school. And second of all, I would have been like, you're a dumbass. Like, do you understand? But honestly, you were 12. So
I was 12. Okay, so anyways, this is when we're told that Rodriguez's computer revealed another troubling coincidence. But I wouldn't call this a coincidence. This is circumstantial evidence at this point because his chats show that he had been in contact with Joanna before she disappeared.
Peter then says that Joanna bore a striking resemblance to Summer Baldwin. And we see their photos next to one another, and I'm not seeing it. Were you?
Not really. However, when you see the crime scene photos, which is horrible to say, Summer's hair is the exact auburn red color that we see in Joanna's photos. But the one that they show here, Summer has like a strawberry blonde hair color, so it does throw us off. They don't look alike. But I do see the matching hair color, unfortunately.
Detective Sutton wonders if Rosendo has a profile here with fair-skinned redheads, but then says a certain age group. And I had to pause it and double check because Summer is 29, and I mean, a 13-year range, a child at 16 and an adult woman are two very different age groups.
Yep. And I personally think he targeted someone like Summer because she might not get as much media attention. Not as much as like a 16-year-old that's a missing child, you know? So, because he saw how much attention Joanna going missing brought. I think he was looking for someone that might be like a little bit more obscure. If she went missing, not so many people would notice right away, you know? So I think he actually did target Summer, and could be because of the hair, because she might not get as much media attention as, say, a 16-year-old missing child did, which is just so sad. I appreciate the officers in this case working so hard to get justice for both of them. But when they start to wonder if they have a serial killer, I got a little confused because a serial killer kills 3 or more. But then they eventually charge him for the murder of a child under 6, even though Summer was only 10 weeks along. Yeah, so I just hope the law is clear that it was charged this way due to the violence the man committed against the mother carrying the child, resulting in death of the both of them. Otherwise, I could just see that as being like a really slippery slope. Like, what if a pregnant woman slips and literally falls or gets in a little car accident that results, like, she's the one at fault in a car accident, like a fender bender, but it results in a miscarriage. Like, can she be charged with murdering her child or child endangerment? But then I remind myself, like, this is Texas, and I struggle to understand their laws. So maybe, who knows? Who knows?
Detectives pulled Joanna Rogers' cell phone records, and it showed no calls to or from Rodriguez, but they did find proof that Rodriguez made cell phone calls to the landline that was in Joanna's bedroom, and that he'd done so on the night that she disappeared. They figured that he probably called her on his way over to her house, and then called her when he got there.
Am I the only one asking why they didn't check her AIM history or her phone records immediately? Like, I'm overall very impressed with how they handled Summer's case, but I have a lot of questions as to why they wouldn't have looked further into Joanna's. If we're to believe that they orchestrated a huge search effort for her, you would think that they would be like, is she on the computer? Let's check your phone records.
Yeah. And if they think that these two cases are related and that Joanna suffered the same fate as Summer Baldwin, then they need to be searching for Joanna's body in the city landfill. And this landfill is the size of 3 football fields, not to mention that she's been missing for 18 months. So how on earth would they find her remains or a suitcase that's been buried in fucking trash for that long?
We have basically 1,260 acres of trash. That becomes a crime scene.
But they got a huge break when they learned that the landfill is a lot more organized than they expected.
One of the things that I was quite amazed by was how strategically placed or lined out the trash is, that it's put in grids.
I didn't know landfills were that strategic. Okay, organization.
My mind is so much more at ease learning this. Like,
Me
when I
too.
heard what they were going to have to search, just like that overwhelm of like, this is a project that will never be done feeling hit me.
Right.
But they actually go back and determine a region or an area where trash was dumped from a particular area of the city, which is just impressive. So volunteers had a very specific area to search, where the trash from Joanna's neighborhood had been dumped.
But like you said before, it was almost 2 years worth of trash. And they say that's almost 250,000 tons to dig through. Hundreds of people showed up and volunteered, and we see what I think are videos of them all going into it. But at that moment that I saw that part in the episode, I thought, where is their masks? Where is their gloves?
Where's their
where's
hazmat
anything?
suit?
They're all just out there carefree with nothing on them to protect themselves.
Yeah, they're at the Sunday
Yeah.
barbecue. They just
Or a carnival.
Hey, can we round up some volunteers or
It was wild.
You guys aren't gonna get balloons
Right.
here. You're going through literal trash.
Years.
Years of trash. Okay, but I
Yeah.
really hope those people have been blessed in their life since this, because what a difficult thing to do. I know if it was my baby, I would dig through piles of anything to find her, but to ask a volunteer to do that, I don't see that happening nowadays.
To us, it was a phenomenal effort that they were willing to do for our daughter.
So something I want to add in here is how they ended up here. On the podcast Military Murder, I've referenced it a bunch. It's a great podcast. The host goes into great detail. See, they offered Rosendo a plea deal if he told them what happened to Joanna, and he agreed. They said that they would take the death penalty off the table. He confessed to everything and told them that he did, in fact, put her in a suitcase. So I think it's like he was trying to actually recreate that murder again with Summer.
Weird.
And Summer was his attempt to relive what he did with Joanna. So he was even offered immunity in Joanna's case, and that was agreed with the parents, with Joanna's parents. They agreed to that. Also, why we never hear about if it went to trial or if he was sentenced or charged or whatever. And no other resources go into it. I was able to find it. That's what he agreed to, and her parents agreed to it because they just wanted to find her. So that's how they found out, and that is why they knew where to look for her.
The department was also able to fund the money for the search, but after 12 weeks, they had to consider the possibility that they wouldn't find her, and every day they were putting the volunteers at risk.
It's rat-infested, disease-infested debris. I don't think people understand just what a sacrifice that was for folks, the risks that they took and the things that they endured.
I also read, there's a lot of information here I wanted to tie in as we went so it didn't get lost. Yeah, there's just a lot that wasn't included, but it really paints a bigger picture. So I read that the volunteers needed to get shots to protect themselves as well. And just thinking of that coming from this post-COVID world that we're living in now, again, I just don't see the community rallying together for something like this today. And I think it's amazing that what those volunteers did. Yeah, it's humanity at its best right here, really.
Yeah, because they said over 200 people showed up. So they all volunteered to get a shot. That's insane.
I am sure it was maybe a penicillin or whatever, to protect them from whatever they were coming in contact with,
Finally, after months of disappointment, a backhoe moving a pile of trash uncovered, guess what? A suitcase. We see it and we see just her hair, her red auburn hair. The suitcase was practically flat, and they used dental records to confirm it was actually Joanna Rogers.
Oh, and the sweet, vulnerable men in this episode, it's just, honestly, it's refreshing because you can hear the prosecutor really get emotional here.
Now, when her mom wanted to grieve for her, she could go do it.
We hear her mom's interview right after she was found, and you can tell she is devastated. But she says she's happy they found her, and that when I hear that, I just want to hug her. It's so heartbreaking.
But now Peter is just dragging this out with...
While one question was answered, another remained. Would forensic evidence tie Rosendo Rodriguez to Joanna's murder?
Instead of answering that question, though, we just bounce back to Summer's case, and they say it's thanks to digital technology. Investigators needed just 2 days to tie Rosendo Rodriguez to Summer Baldwin's murder. And I have to say, that is really amazing police work, in my opinion. And it all came back to, lo and behold, that UPC code that was found inside the suit.
Here's what Forensic Files believed happened. Rodriguez picked up Summer Baldwin, and they went back to the Holiday Inn Hotel.
At some point, there was an argument that turned violent.
We hear reenactment actors discussing money, but let's remember this is actually what Rosendo said happened, and we don't believe that shit for 1 second.
The forensic evidence shows Rodriguez beat Summer until she was unconscious. Blood splatter hit the floor, bed spring, and bedsheet.
Rodriguez then drove to the local Walmart, bought a suitcase and a pair of latex gloves, and paid with a credit card.
He went to the gas station and, according to his hotel key, re-entered his hotel room at 3:46 a.m.
Rodriguez put Summer's body into the suitcase while she was still alive and threw the gloves in the trash along with the suitcase receipt.
The gloves contained both Summer's and Rodriguez's DNA.
Rodriguez disposed of Summer's body in a dumpster, which was later picked up by a truck and dumped in the landfill.
Rodriguez's cell phone revealed his getaway route to San Antonio because of a selfie he sent of himself to one of his girlfriends, still wearing the clothes he spotted all over town and while covering up the murder.
When Rosendo was arrested for Summer's murder, evidence in his computer tied him to Joanna Rogers' disappearance 18 months earlier.
Computer forensics showed he communicated with Joanna online and called her on his cell phone around 2 o'clock in the morning on the night that she disappeared, most likely to tell her he was waiting outside.
Why these records weren't checked right after she went missing is beyond me, but it seems like through the phone records alone, they could have caught him sooner and maybe saved Summer and spared Joanna's family 18 agonizing months of not knowing.
In a confession video, Rodriguez states him and Joanna got into a fight, and she started threatening him with telling her parents everything, and that's when he attacked her.
After he killed Joanna, he placed her body in a suitcase and put it in a dumpster, which eventually made its way to the same landfill.
Unfortunately, no DNA evidence was recovered from Joanna Rogers' autopsy due to the decomposition of her body.
Okay, that was a long recap, but I hope it helped bring it all together. This episode was a lot easier to follow than most, but I did find a lot of important information missing. Like the fact that the only reason this case went to trial is because after Rosendo agreed to the plea deal I mentioned earlier, he told police everything, he talked about Joanna's murder, but then he decided not to take the plea deal and claimed he was innocent. That means deal's off the table. And they made this case a death penalty case. So he literally screwed himself. He had death penalty off the table because he confessed. Then he took it to trial, and it only took the jury 3 hours to come back with a guilty verdict, and he was sentenced to death.
I cannot believe this was another death penalty case.
I know. Well, we closed the episode with her sweet dad's amazing closing. My favorite ending to an episode yet.
Boy, howdy, no matter how much you know, and you can watch all those TV shows, there's always something new. And by golly, there's things we still don't know about, and they'll get you.
I just feel like you have things you want to add or correct here, so why don't I just let you take the floor?
I appreciate this episode more than others, I will say that. But I do have a few interesting things to add. For more detailed coverage on this case, I recommend listening to that military murder podcast that covers it. It will be linked in the show notes. But she brings up that after this all came out about Rosendo, more victims of his came forward.
Ooh.
Yeah. One of his exes reported being violently raped and abused by him. He instilled so much fear in them that one says she never left for fear for what he would do if she did. And eventually just life circumstances were able to put space between them, and he eventually moved on. And she just feels lucky that she got rid of him without any kind of, life-altering event. And another thing that's in See No Evil, you see some of his confession tapes, and he admits to strangling Joanna while looking at her face to face. Yeah, my heart breaks for those final moments of fear that she had on Earth. Like, no one deserves that. It just makes me so angry that things like this exist. Anyways, so this episode aired in 2011, but Rosendo's last appeal was denied, and he was executed in March of 2018.
Wow.
Yeah, and this asshole had the audacity to make his final statement this. Rodriguez called for an investigation into the Lubbock County District Attorney and the medical examiner, saying they were involved in thousands of wrongful convictions. He also called for a boycott of Texas businesses until the death penalty is stopped. Not a chance, creep. And that is not a chance, creep about the death penalty. It's just not a chance. We're not doing anything on behalf of you. So
I mean, this guy really thinks that he, I think, has more stature than.
I think. Oh, it's from Wicked. It's like your disillusion of grandiosity or something like that.
Yeah, disillusion of grandeur.
Yes, thank you.
Because I felt when watching this episode that there just wasn't enough right? So like there wasn't enough for them to tie in the title to being just about redheads. Enough of like I felt
Yeah.
like everything was kind of like a lot of the stuff that Forensic Files was showing was stuff that they showed in the beginning of the episode and then in the middle of the episode, but we've already seen it. So it just felt like
There was a lot of repetition, and the way that they organized the timeline to present it,
right.
it was just weird. And like even how they opened it, they're like, investigators are worried there's a serial killer. And it's like, they were not thinking that at all. It's crazy when I will research these cases and I find other documentaries or docuseries about them.
Right.
And they're just like, they tell a very organized story of the investigation and of the person and the victims and stuff. And this is just always all over the place.
We're thankful to have podcasts out there that do the research, right? That do like let us
Yeah.
know about these little tidbits that
Right.
would be really helpful in watching an episode like this. Like
Right, because I just think it's just bad practice at this point,
Right.
for it to still be airing.
Right.
And I don't know how that works. Like, is it owned by a production company that still makes money off of it? But like, insert a title card of like some of this information might not
Yes.
be accurate. Do you know what I mean?
I mean,
like,
my
it's
dad is watching Forensic Files reruns on the TV like
Yeah.
yesterday. So like
Yeah.
I'm like
so many people do, and they're
update it.
just taking it. Yeah, like put a title card, say if something, like do that work, because if you're making money off of re-airing these shows and the advertisers around that show, then throw a little money back
Right.
and correct the narrative.
Correct. I 1000%
It just makes it's just annoying, because I grew up watching the show. We started this podcast thinking we were just gonna recap it because I like had this nerd
Yeah.
love for it, and now I'm like, oh no,
We're
am
getting
I like a
passionate.
Forensic Files hater? Yeah, I'm like a hater now because I'm like, shit.
I mean, I don't think we're haters. I think that we are hating on the fact that like things could have been done so much better to like display information about these cases. Like we're not
Yeah.
hating on Forensic Files. We are just like now watching this with a 2025 lens, and it's just like
Yeah.
if anyone is watching this like today, I'm sure
Have some perspective.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah,
sure anyone
have
thinks
some
the same
perspective.
things that we're thinking. It's just like now
Mhm.
we're just re-looking at these cases that are displayed on the show and wishing that they could have done better. Now for our missing person cases that we would like everyone to know about. From the Black and Missing Foundation's website, we have the case of Charlie Denny. She went missing on March 4th, 2025. Her age is 14. She went missing from Washington, D.C. She's female, Black. Her complexion is light. She's 5 foot, 100 pounds. Her hair color is black. Her hair length is medium, and her eye color is black. Charlie was last seen on the 2400 block of Anger Place, southeast in Washington, District of Columbia, on March 4th, 2025. Her circumstances of disappearance are unknown, and anyone with information was to please contact the Metropolitan Police Department at 202-576-6768 or text BAMFI at 87797-BAMFI. Or you can also submit information to the Black and Missing Foundation's tip line at blackandmissinginc.com/tipline.
Sometimes I feel like the rag in Beauty and the Beast that Belle is wringing out when she's cleaning the beast's wounds.
Oh my God,
Do
what
you
a
know?
specific image. Wow.
I know. That's one of like my favorite scenes from the movie. I have no idea why. I used to like literally take a bucket and rag and pretend like I was Beauty and the Beast.
Oh my God, that's pure poetry.
But that's how I feel after an episode like
Yeah.
this. Like I'm the rag
Yeah.
being twisted, and now it's just like, ugh,
Yeah.
like everything's drained out of me. But I think we gave this episode a lot of good context.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
and I think that's also why we try to include a little bit of our own personal humor to bring a little bit of light to the situation, although it is
levity.
Yeah, although it's a really tough situation.
It's important to learn. It's important to listen to these stories. It's important to honor these stories.
Right.
It's also important to like keep yourself level and remember, like right now listening to this, like you're okay.
Yeah.
We're okay.
Yeah.
we're learning something about this person and we're going to honor them by, learning something from it.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So our next episode is season 1, episode 7, called Legionnaire's Disease.
What?
And it is a very different style of an episode. I think it will be a very welcome change of style of episode, though. I could use a break from these like weak, disgusting incels that are preying on vulnerable women and children. I just could use a break from them.
I am not even going
really...
to try to pronounce
Legionnaires.
Legionnaires.
Legion.
Legionnaires. Legionnaires disease.
Like a airplane.
Okay.
Like Legionnaires.
Legionnaires. Welcome to Legionnaires.
Legionnaires.
Okay.
Yeah.
Legionnaires disease.
It's a wild ride. Yeah. I kind of I was just listening to episodes one day and it came back on and I was like, wow, this is an episode I've never seen. A lot of these I don't remember at all. If you like our podcast, please help us spread the word. Share on social media, share on Reddit because they don't like me.
Be nice, everyone. Be nice. We are just
Please.
a podcast. Come on.
Yeah, just share it everywhere. Drop us a review. Tell us what you think.
And if you don't, then why are you still here?
Seriously, it's fine. Just go. Do something else.
Yeah. Bye.